Greetings, folks, and welcome back to another edition of Kaiju Showcase. Today, we're digging pretty far back into the archives, and we are going with the Ultra Q bad guy, Kemur-seijin, or Kemur-seijin, or Kemur-seijin, whichever you prefer to call it. This gentleman here was, of course, released by Bandai, and well, I hope it's a gentleman, I don't know, you don't point that out, but was released by Bandai in 2011. This is the newer mold. Or not newer mold, blah blah blah. This is the newest release of this toy. It's, I don't know, it's a bit taller. I think it's because it's a thinner toy they could get away with it. But I'm gonna break out the old yardstick here so you guys can see. Here's Hydra, of course. You remember from my last review, which was a while ago. He is very, very close to 6 inches. Might as well be. As you can see, he's Kemur-seijin is probably about 7-ish, maybe closer to 7 inches. Pretty decently tall, but I think it's because he's thinner they can get away with using a little more vinyl. Arms move, waist turns. That's it for posability. Not a whole lot to talk about there. But actually, really, there's really not much to say about this toy in general. The paint on it, a lot of people kind of complained about. Since Ultra Q was black and white, of course, it's kind of hard to say what color he was, but when he appeared in an episode of Ultraman, he was vaguely this blue, kind of orangish color, and I think, I'm generally thinking that's the color they meant it to be, but most of the stuff I've seen has been some pretty old Ultraman stuff, and not the best pictures, so it's kind of hard to say what, the blue in the colors that kind of faded out on him, which happens, and that's kind of understandable. But for the actual toy, there's actually been 2 releases by Bandai other than this, and both of them were in the year 2000. The first one was in 2000, the March of 2000, which was kind of a black and white release, and there was another one later that same year in July of 2000. I think these were, I only say there may have been, the first ones may have been more of a little bit of special release, and they just put them out again a couple months later to coincide with the release of another big set. It's a pretty good mold. I like it a lot. I was kind of, when I was going to buy it, I was like, I mean, I like the color because it was wacky and everybody was bitching about it when the color came out. At least everybody I knew was bitching about it. But it's kind of like, I mean, I'll get it just for kicks. It's not very expensive. And when I got it, I actually really like the color. The detail's pretty good. It's comparable to the actual show, but again, that's, for a 800 yen toy, it's very comparable to the show. But it's nice. I'd really recommend it. It's pretty good. Now let's talk a little bit about the history. Kemur-seijin appeared in the 19th episode of Ultra Q, entitled Challenge from the Year 2020. Now, the information on this is going to be a little sketchy or hit and miss. If you guys know a little more about it, feel free to fill me in. Ultra Q is generally, to my knowledge, has not been fan subbed properly. If it has, whoops, my apologies. But the one I've seen was in Japanese, and I kind of took from it what I could and what research that I could find about the actual toys. Whatever it is, used a kind of jelly, kind of, I don't know, oozing liquid kind of thing that would crawl up, and if it touched people, it would make them vanish, like it abducted people. And the intentions of these abductions, I'm not 100% sure, but I know the gel that came from it, that it would, send out was actually flammable, so it wasn't water. It had to be some kind of course, living liquid. Whenever it touched somebody, the gel and whatever it touched vanished. I imagine kind of absorbed into itself. Kemur could actually kind of looked like he could take on the form of whomever he absorbed. So maybe it was kind of like a duplication kind of thing, or maybe he could do that as kind of like a trick to kind of blend in with like a new group of creatures or whatever. So it's kind of neat. You know, of course, he starts at like human size, and he runs really awesome. I'll have a clip. He's like super sprint, like sprinting out, like outrunning cars and shit. It's really awesome. Aside from that, doesn't really have much of a power. He ends up getting huge, and like the little jello or whatever I was telling you about that abducts people, he actually secretes from this dealabobber here on his head. So it's kind of neat. I like the episode a lot. You know, of course, it's like anything. It's subtitled. It seems like I can understand a good portion of it, but not all of it. So I might have missed something important. But it was a good episode. And he was defeated by one of their weapons in Ultra Q. I've not watched much Ultra Q, but it was good. It was a really good episode. He made other appearances in, again, the original Ultraman in the episode with Kemur-seijin. Kemur makes an illusion of Baltan and Kemur-seijin and one other fucking creature I can't remember right now that I tried to remember for this review, but my brain exploded. And they made that appearance, and then it was supposedly part of the body of Beirudora or Beirudon at the end of Ultra Galaxy Legend, the movie. And it's supposed to be part of that, but aside from that, that's all the history I could dig up on him. It's not made very many appearances, but it's still a pretty cool bad guy. And of course, the last bit is going to be pricing and availability and everything. As I said, this was released in, maybe I didn't say, but it was released in 2011. It should have been January, February 2011 it was released. So it's still a fairly new toy, but it wasn't in the EX line, so it's a little more limited. I would imagine it should be available. It was probably hovering anywhere in new condition between $10 and $20. I wouldn't pay more than $15 for it unless you really are just a Kemur-seijin fan, and you just want that crazy kind of blue color. It does look cool, and it does stand out on your shelf, I assure you. I've had a couple people ask me about it, and I really like it, but it's out there. I haven't seen quite as many as I used to see. I just don't think it's sold very well. I mean, it is, again, Kemur-seijin. I hate saying that, and I try to pick on it, but it's not the most popular character in the world. But it's good. It's out there. Don't pay a lot for it. I don't know about the older ones. I actually wanted to get some of the older paint variations, but they turn up here and there. It's like anything. But this is the only mold Bandai's ever done in their 6-inch line. Yeah, he does have an eyeball like right there in the back of his head, so it's kind of cool. But we'll wrap up this review. Thanks again for tuning in to Kaiju Showcase or Seijin Showcase or whatever you want to call it. But we do a little bit of everything here. As I said, thank you for tuning in. I'll hopefully have something else new. Sorry again for the little delay. And I should have another questionnaire. Should be doing a questionnaire video here soon. So if you got any more questions, guys, feel free to add them in the comments. Send me a personal message on YouTube or on Facebook. If you have me on Facebook, I put a lot of news on there. Or just however you need to get a hold of me, just make sure you mention. I'll mention whomever asked the question, and then the question, and I'll answer it to the best of my ability. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you guys later.